What is up, buddy?
What's up?
Welcome into episode 7.
We're doing it. Dude, I sent out this email blast for this March Madness thing that we're doing at Burger House. I mentioned on the last episode.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to get more exposure with it, and I linked this YouTube video of Bill, my son, and his cousin Jones. Jones is like super into YouTube, and he's like, dude, they slept over on last weekend, and he was like, film a video of us, like, we're gonna, go in the ravine and say it's haunted, and just doing kid stuff. And I accidentally linked that video instead of the video of me saying, like, come on into Burger House, we're doing a promotion. Sign up for a free bracket challenge. You can win a $100 gift card.
Where did it go out to?
It went out to like all my Burger House subscriber like email list. So it's like
Email blast. Oh
yeah,
God.
it's like 7,000 people like that. So I get these emails from people that are that place an online order with us, and then it's in my Toast account.
Yep.
And I can send out, I like to email for each store like once a week, give or take. And this was the one I did this week or last week. And I was like, why did this video not? Because it's an unlisted video. It's because I didn't want it, like my YouTube subscribers seeing it and being confused. But I was like, why did this get 0 views? And then I click on the email and click on the link, and it goes to like, hey, this is Jones. We're going in the ravine. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm an idiot.
So how was the conversion on the email blast?
Like who opened it and stuff?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't checked it.
Okay. We need numbers.
Yeah. I mean, I could get my computer. I just figured this out last night.
How long was it out
sometimes it's like
for?
a YouTube video. Like you needed to. Well, what? When did I post it?
Yeah. When did you send the email blast?
I posted.
How much
I posted
time went
it,
by before you figured it out?
I posted on. Like maybe like 4 hours.
Okay.
Like I sent it out at like 4 last night.
So long enough for some people to definitely see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like it's kind of like YouTube. Like you can't get hard numbers right away. Like you need almost like a couple, like a day or so to go by to like get actual, numbers. But I was like, oh my gosh. Like, so I just made it private. So at least it looks like the link is broken or something, Did
you send out like a
no,
I'm sorry email?
No. I'm sorry.
You have the wrong link attached. Yeah. I feel like I get those in my inbox more than I get.
I know. I'm just kind of going off like, hopefully nobody opened that. And hopefully this email is just a flop. And let's pretend that never happened.
The most annoying one is the email blast you're on where you get the email. They accidentally send it twice, the exact same thing. And then they send a third like, oh, we're sorry. We sent an email twice. It's like, just ignore
Yeah.
I'd rather just have the 2 than the third one. Like yet another email I need to check. I didn't want the first one anyway.
Like I didn't click on it. No need for an apology.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I have posted some stuff that had some screw ups in it, like misspellings and stuff. And my sister's
like an email? Or?
No, usually it's like on Instagram or TikTok.
Oh yeah.
I like the title. The like little, it's not a thumbnail, but the thumbnail card of what you see just has a totally misspelled word. And my sisters will be like, what'd you mean there, dum-dum?
That's what sisters and moms are good for.
Yeah,
They'll
always
always tell you when you make them like, okay, you want to do my job?
They're never like, that was a great video.
Yeah,
but the second you misspell something, they're like, hey, where'd you learn spelling, you idiot? So, thanks to sisters.
Yeah. And mommies.
Yeah. Speaking of sisters and moms.
What?
Oh, that's a really bad segue. We should pivot. Not speaking of any of that, unrelated. Let's go on a tangent, which is this week's topic.
Yeah. Let's do it.
How to cut costs without sacrificing quality. I feel like you might have a little bit more like. So you asked me last week, hey, have you ever figured out ways to like cut your drawing time in order to be more efficient? And I thought about it some. Like, oh yeah, I think it's weird to say, but time is my main cost if I'm going to do all my own drafting. So yeah, there's a lot of little tricks I've picked up over the years that I feel like help me get quicker at it. One is just like releasing only part of the drawing. for that very first draft, I will do just the main floor plan, maybe a second floor if it's a 2-story, and then a really rough sketch of the exterior. Like, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on the basement and the front elevation and the rendering and the sides and the rear yet, because I don't even know if they like the inside. I think it does 2 things. One, it focuses our meeting a lot better. I get them to worry about the core areas because I'm not showing them detail in the other areas. And then 2, it saves a ton of my time in drafting and redrafting. Like, I'm just skipping all the stuff that I used to show in drawing sets. So yeah, that's something I've started to do more and more. I think that's helped me with my time.
Yeah, I feel like when you have to be super organized with your time when it's just you, like you have to have everything mapped out. Like, you should have like a whiteboard in your office of like things you need to get to so you can fit in the things you want to do, which is like the YouTube stuff and like just some of the fun stuff that you get to do on the side.
Yeah, right. So I actually use a AI app called Motion. I don't think it's actually AI. They just throw the AI term on it because everybody does that. But it's like a task management app like Monday or what are some others? I forget. Asana is one. But what I liked about this one was I could set my tasks and time frame, like how long each task takes. And then that also syncs with my Google Calendar. So I'm able to get a lot more dialed in. And I have like recurring appointments where it finds an hour every day to do exercise. And so it like fills in all this stuff automatically and then gives me red flag warnings if I'm overscheduled or underbooked or stuff like that. And that has really helped me be efficient too, with scheduling and with my time.
Yeah, I haven't gotten into the AI stuff. I've heard a lot about those, but it's just hard for me to like really think that it knows the ins and outs of what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis and what is it going to do, yell at me if I get pulled away from something like, no, you need to work on this task.
Yeah, right. And so it puts drawings in blocks for where it thinks I have time. I kind of ignore those for the most part and just worry about the deadlines. And then it gives me red flags if I don't have enough time to meet the deadlines. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I either need to put in more time or notify the client that something's going to get pushed. Like, that has been really helpful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think being dialed in with deadlines has really helped me save time and, air quotes, cut costs. What are some things you do to cut? What's like the big picture cutting costs measure in a restaurant?
Well, it's always labor and costs of goods. So like when it comes to labor, we have like a labor worksheet that I'll send to the managers and say like, okay, based on your anticipated volume, you have X amount of hours to spend in each job category. And they'll use it as a tool. It's in this industry, things are fluid and you can't, it's kind of like, well, I needed this guy on overtime this week because we had to call off. And there are things like that just happen that you can't really anticipate. So it's not a science, but you try to make it as much of a science as you can. Because there's only so many things you can really control, and labor and your food costs are kind of the most important things. So that's kind of when it comes to labor, that's what we like to do and then I'll send out like communication. So talking to the managers about this like constantly. So like in our weekly meeting on Thursdays, we'll go over like where labor was at last week, why it was up, were we training a new person? And so just being on the forefront of our minds, I think is helpful because they're always thinking about it. And when you're complacent and it's not part of the conversation, then I feel like it just kind of goes by the wayside. But if their bonus is dependent on, how low they were able to keep their labor costs, it's naturally going to be at the forefront of their mind. And then we're just talking about it a lot. So that, and then there's different things like negotiating with our primary vendor, which is GFS and Gordon Food Service, and our usage on certain things. So like pickle buckets. If we sell a lot of pickle chips, so we use these dill pickles and we hand batter them and then fry them, and they're really good. It's one of our like most popular appetizers at Burger House, and if we can negotiate a price of like, $1 or $2 less a pail of buckets, I mean, that little things like that can save $40,000 a year, especially if you've got a lot of volume on those items. So that, and then like, we switched to prime beef probably 6 or 7 years ago. And we were able to upgrade our quality of beef because we started going through more beef at that time by adding more restaurants, and we were able to get a better price on that product as opposed to getting like a custom blend of like short rib, flat iron, and chuck, which wasn't prime. We switched to like just chuck, but it's prime, and the flavor was great. We're still using that product, and we actually ended up getting a better deal on that than our previous product.
So it's like a bulk discount. So this is one of the advantages of having 6 places in a town versus 1.
Yeah, but it is, but it's also just like constantly researching like what's out there in terms of like product availability and
interesting. Yeah.
And seeing like, is this product going to work better for us? So yeah, we do have an advantage when it comes to like that, buying in bulk and whatnot. But also, there are certain things that GFS will sell us, like our 7-Eleven tomato sauce from Stanislaus. We use that here at Lenny's, which is like great. It's kind of got that like San Marzano, like fresh tomato sauce flavor, but it's canned, and then we doctor it up a little bit. It's what a lot of coal-fired pizza places use. But GFS sells it for like $36 for a case of 6 of these cans, and Battaglia, which is just like a mom and pop distributor, sells it for like 31, and we do get rebates from Gordon every quarter. So if I'm saving like $1 a case on something, it's like, I don't know if that's worth it because I'm going to get a rebate check, and I want my buying to be as high as possible from Gordon Food Service. But if it's something drastic like $7 a case and we go through a lot of it, then we start looking at like some of the local vendors like Piazza and Battaglia.
Interesting. So when I was with home builders, a lot of clients wanted to save costs by like, they would see a light fixture and be like, oh, this light fixture is cheap. Let's just buy 8 of these and show them up on site. And builders would always push back because of the vendor thing. They're like, no, we're going to use our lighting supplier because they know exactly when to put them there. The lights aren't going to get damaged. We don't need somebody at the job all morning waiting for some freight driver to drop it off. And like, we realized as a builder, even though the cost to the client looked like it was more, it ended up being cheaper in the long run to just use our distributor because they knew all the ins and outs of like how to work a business. And we were saving on labor costs and stuff like that because there's all this extra stuff that goes into buying a light at Home Depot and getting it in your house that you don't really think about. Do you find there are a bunch of soft costs when you go outside to GFS?
I would say the cost is like making things more complicated for me in the office, which is, with GFS, it's credit card, it syncs right to Margin Edge, which syncs to QuickBooks. Now I'm working with a vendor and they don't take credit card, and maybe I'm getting a better price on that item, but now whether it's I'm sending a check or it's direct withdrawal from my bank account, I have to match up their statement, which like sometimes their statements aren't matching the bill because they're like mom and pop. So they're handwriting like, oh, this item wasn't on there. So they cross off that item and say like deduct X amount from the bill. And now I'm like, but that number doesn't match the bill I got or what we paid you. And now I'm going in, now I'm calling their accounts receivable department or accounts payable and saying like, why is this? I'm trying to reconcile my bank statement and the numbers aren't matching up. Whereas like GFS is just because they're so big, they're like they're dialed in on all those details, and it's just like works so much faster. And I never have a question of like all their credits always get posted to my credit card account. It's great because I get miles from all of our purchases. That's kind of a separate topic, but like that's another benefit to using them, being able to put credit cards. Like if you're doing a ton of purchasing, do whatever you can to get them to allow you to put it on credit cards. But again, separate topic. But yeah, I would say it's more of like my time. I wouldn't say there's a ton of soft costs outside of that. Like what you're paying is what you're getting. It might just be like, oh, their delivery driver is not professional, and sometimes the boxes topple over, and then I have to like get a credit because the case of eggs broke, and there's things like that you have to deal with when you're dealing with like some of the smaller vendors. But I would say those are the biggest issues.
Yeah. And with us, with like all your time into it, with a home builder, it's usually a project manager, so that's labor costs. So like, there's not the trade-off wasn't there. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. That was kind of one of the main things I wanted to ask you was like, do you feel like you're changing how because it's not like it's saving you money necessarily unless a project is taking you less time. You're really more motivated to like of finding creative ways to save your customer money. Yeah. You know, so like, do you feel like you change your drawing or your plans or based on your perception of what someone's budget might be? Like, are you making recommendations like this might save you a little bit of money if you do it this way?
All the time. Yep.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the things that brings me value that other drafters and architects don't have is I worked for so long for home builders. So I know exactly what they're going to say and think when they're bidding out this place, you know? And so, yeah, I think with every single client, first off, I tell every single client, I'm going to try and draw this as small as possible. Not within reason, you know, all the rooms will be the right size based on a house that I think you're wanting. But I'm going to try and get this thing down because it's always easier to go bigger than smaller. And everybody is over budget now. So we're going to try and draw smaller. I think too, just my experience, like I was saying, with builders, simple spans, simple roof lines, like there's a ton, you could spend so much money in foundation and lumber and not even realize it. And nobody wants to spend money on those things, you know? And eliminating jogs where they don't need to be and they're not really adding something to the plan, eliminating weird roofs, eliminating weird spans, simplifying bearing points. I know this is kind of, you know, inside baseball here, but like there's a lot you can do when you're designing a floor plan to cut costs and have essentially an exact same, not exact, but similar feeling house. And we're talking, you could cut $200,000 out of a house easy just by simplifying the structure.
It's just hard because you drive by those neighborhoods where it's like boxes and you're like, oh, I would hate to live there, you know, in that neighborhood. And it's like you want to make it unique and add character and add detail. And like, you know, like I love jogs and like low pitch, like mid-century roof lines and all that stuff, like tons of glass. But it's like, I won't ever be able to build a house like that unless I have a ton of money or make it really small, you know, but like, that's my perspective. If I'm building a house, the one time in my life I would do that, I would want it to be like an art piece. And I feel like a lot of people feel that way, but like maybe not that many people are really in a position to do that, and they have to kind of settle for like a 2-story house because it's cheaper to build that way, and they have to just make some concessions because like not everybody's like made of money. Yeah,
I'm finding the windows is a great example. I'm finding I'm having a lot of bang for the buck conversations with my clients because everybody wants more windows. That's not something, very, very few clients are like, yes, please, less windows.
Yeah.
But it happens. So with my experience, I know and talk to enough providers, you know, window providers to know there's a line in which it's like the biggest window you can still get in a stock unit. And we're not going to custom. You're not going to a super high-end line to get a really big size window. You're not going to commercial glass where that gets crazy in a residential setting. You can spend a ton of time on that.
So how tall is that window?
So it's typically most window manufacturers top out at around 5x6. 5x6 you can get the
6 tall.
6 foot tall, 5 feet wide.
Yeah. That's pretty good. I mean, because the people that want those big windows, I think are envisioning like, I want floor to ceiling windows.
Yeah. And
like
so,
I want like a window wall on this area because the view is great. It's going to let a ton of light in.
yeah, it's a lot cheaper if you break it up.
Yeah.
You know, and this is the stuff I've learned through my career where if you want a 12 by 12 area of glass, it's actually cheaper to do it in 9 windows than it would be to do it in 1 window. There's a lot of structural stuff you can get into there. And yeah, you'll have mullions, trim breaking it up on the interior. I'm just here to help clients with that decision. I don't know the exact numbers on some of this stuff.
What's another way that you help your client source materials affordably? Like, is that just through relationships and just the institutional knowledge that you have after doing this for so long?
Yeah, usually. I like to involve a builder early too. I think a lot of people want to get their plan designed and send it to 5 builders to bid. I think that's a bad idea. I think from draft 1, you should start talking to your builder about, hey, this is what we're thinking. This is our budget. Are we on track? And yeah, I'm just putting little stuff in the drawings that I know costs more or less. Like I know spans of things. And I know there's a certain length at which we go past, and now we're into another price bracket for what we need structurally. So let's design the floor plan under that, So I'm doing a lot of that stuff, whether I'm talking to the client about it or not. I'm trying to do a lot of that stuff behind the scenes to just help them, like I said, get bang for buck. That's cutting costs in like designing and or building a home. What are you finding with your ingredients specifically? Like how hard is it to, either sacrifice or increase quality based on pricing? Like where is your decision in that?
I think it's, we're pretty happy with the ingredients that we use right now, and we don't use a whole lot of frozen. So it's really just, making sure that the managers, the kitchen managers, when they're price shopping, if they're finding a better price on something, that it makes sense, because sometimes you'll get like a fresh number 2 tomato or like random, like you can get a case of like randoms, like random sizes. That's what they call it. So like you can do that, but like on certain, if I'm using tomatoes for pico and as opposed to like burgers, like slicing the tomato for the burger, it's got to be like kind of a certain size so it fills out the bun. Yeah. So like I would probably get a 5x6 for the burgers, but like at Brick Street, I can get randoms or number 2s even for a lot cheaper, and the size doesn't really matter. And it's not like it's like rotten. It's number 2, so it's like rotten. It's not like that, you know? So every concept's a little different based on like what the need is, like maybe we need different things or we don't need to go with the most expensive item because the size doesn't matter. So yeah, that's kind of how we approach that. But it's this constant thing where we're just always paying attention to it. You never want to, like the biggest thing here, which this is interesting. So like at Le Peep, you would think my egg prices. So Le Peep is under a different contract because Le Peep is corporate, and then so they're under an MDA, which is like a distribution agreement, master distribution agreement, which like certain larger vendors will have. And it's basically ensuring that you're going to buy 80% of your product through them. And so they're getting benefit because they know you're buying from them, and then you're getting some benefit. Like you figure that out. What are you
locking
negotiating?
In price and stuff.
Yeah, and you're negotiating different things. Like I'll negotiate like a new computer and I want like there's certain things I want every time we renegotiate. But so we're under different contracts. So for some reason, the egg prices are really high right now because of the bird flu. But I found this egg that I can get. It's a medium size egg. It's not a large, but it's so it's medium, but it's like, I want to say it's like 30, it was 30 cents an egg, which is like not bad right now. Actually might have been a little bit less than that. It was probably in the mid 20s. And then at Le Peep, that same egg was like over 50 cents, which didn't make any sense to me. So like I told Ken, my manager there, like just order the eggs from Lenny's and then we'll do a product transfer in QuickBooks so it's not affecting Lenny's negatively on our food cost. Yeah. And then just have Juan come over, get the eggs and bring them over. And that's saving like $1,000 a month. Just that,
Wow.
you know? And so it's like, if it's always at the forefront of your mind and you're talking about it and you're not just like going through ordering 1 case of this, 2 cases of that. And you have your pars to make ordering easier, but you got to pay attention to the prices. And that's something that Margin Edge, that program, I mean, I'm on it all the time. I talk about it all the time. It helps us with, because it'll alert us if like, hey, this price spiked last week.
Interesting.
You know?
So you're looking at every price for every ingredient often. In
Yeah.
all 6 of your places.
Yeah, not every price. I mean, the managers hopefully are. I'm not. I'm looking at so Margin Edge will have this thing on the homepage where it's got like price alerts. So like the top 10 items that have moved the most, and then you can just do it by like the percentage and like the impact it's have based on how much buying you're doing of that specific product. So I'm looking at that pretty regularly, just to see like because produce fluctuates based on the time of the year. So does beef. Yeah. And even though you're under contracts, they still have the ability to mark it up 10% or whatever the percentage is. So the prices do move even if you have a contract. It's not like you're 100% locked in all the time on every item. So it's really important to pay attention to that, and it's saved us a lot of money in doing that.
Yeah, that's cool. How often are you making the intentional decision? We want to spend, like we're ready to spend more on ingredient X, Y, or Z because we want to get something better.
I think you're just looking at, with that, it would probably, what would have the biggest impact is like the proteins, like what cut of meat are you using for your steak dish? Like with produce, it's kind of, you can get like microgreens, like micro cilantro instead of regular cilantro for your garnishes to make it look pretty. Like that's going to be more expensive than just getting cilantro from GFS or from the store or whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't use that much of it, and it's just like to make it look nice. So there's certain things like that you justify, like, okay, it's going to be way more expensive to buy this, like a flat, it's like $50 or whatever, but it's going to last a while because we're not using that much. It's not part of the recipe. Yeah. And same thing with like the steak. Depending on the time of the year, you might offer certain steaks based on where the pricing falls on those items. Whether it goes up during grilling season when there's more usage, or goes down. So you might change what you're offering based on what the prices are doing. Like, hey, we're getting a good price on salmon. Let's do a salmon special this week.
Okay, and that's where most restaurants get their specials, you think?
I would hope that's how they do it.
Yeah. Is that how you guys do it?
Yeah, that's how we do it. And we're not in a market like Chicago where, we could charge a pretty penny for certain items, but you got to draw the line somewhere. And, I'm not going to charge like $80-$90 for a steak, but they might do that in Chicago. So like, so we have to be a little bit more, I would imagine we have to be a little bit more creative and careful with our spending and just staying on top of where, what we can get a good price on and make adjustments that way.
Yeah. I saw your video. You did a video on just like costs in a restaurant. And you did it on Lenny's here. I'm curious if you want to share just some of the bigger points on it, on like how you guys thought about costs for this build out.
Oh yeah. So yeah, that's another component, because we're unlike, I guess most restaurant tours have to deal with this because they're doing the build out. But I would say because we've approached this more from not more, but like we're also in on the real estate side of things. Like we've approached it from a standpoint of like, we're doing the restaurant things because it's also allowing us to do real estate, and we see as great of an impact from that as we do like.
Yeah, because you own this building and you own next door too, right?
Yeah. So we've been very involved in either renovating spaces or like Lapeep building the space from the ground up. We're not the contractor, obviously, but we're meeting with them weekly as we go through that process.
Right.
So I think, having a contractor, we used a design build firm for that project, which was good. But they have a lot of, I would say, man, really the hardest part from a relational standpoint is dealing with them. And then you have your interior designer who like can also help with finding finishes that are cost effective, but just having that, like being able to bring them together and like get on the same page.
Yeah.
It's really difficult, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like, I can't imagine doing a restaurant without Aida helping us. Like, she's added a ton of value, but and when we go to a meeting with our contractor and they're always complaining about her not getting them information, or like this product's way too expensive. You know, it's like, well, if you guys just like talked, and I don't need to be the middleman. Like, tell her this product's too expensive, and she's like super reasonable and easy to work with. Like, she'll find something different. But I think just going through that process a number of times has helped me kind of understand what to expect from a cost standpoint on certain finishes, and knowing like, is this the type of restaurant where we need to have tile, or can we get away, like I said in the video, like with a VCT here? Like, does it fit the vibe? You know?
Yeah, and it does. It feels
does here,
right in
yeah.
here. Yeah.
So having like a good designer, I think, is very important to make a place feel special. But you know, on the Birdies project, part of the issue too is, you know, mistakes from a lack of communication, or just like negligence, and the wrong tile gets installed in the wrong location, and no one's really willing to take ownership because they blame it on like, well, this person didn't communicate with me. And so now it's like, okay, well, they're not going to rip all that tile out. So then you just have to like make concessions and be like, okay, that's going to cost me another 20 grand to like rip that out, order the new tile, reinstall it. So then you just live with certain things, which like is good enough. Like there are things in Birdies that I didn't want to be how they are. Like I thought it could have been better, but when you walk in there, you wouldn't notice. It's still the vibe of the place is still what it would have been otherwise. It's just
it feels nice in there.
Just like extra things that would have taken it to the next level, in my opinion. But that now we have to like just concede and say like, all right, I guess it's gonna be that way, and it's good enough. You know? So that's been the biggest challenge with like build out stuff, and things not like pieces of kitchen equipment being bigger than what you thought they were supposed to be on the plans, and now you're just always like thinking on the fly and like trying to like finagle things to like work out. You know? And it always does, but that can get difficult for sure.
Yeah. Another way I've thought about costs, I mean, I've mentioned before on this podcast, like my costs are astronomically lower than yours. I don't really have a ton of hard costs, but just advice to people starting out would be like, know what stuff costs. Like, does an accountant cost $2K a year, or should it be $20K, or should it be $200K? Like, there's people around that will share that info with you. Get in a Facebook group that has that stuff. Knowing what your accountant costs, knowing what insurance should cost, like you're saying with the build out, like knowing what materials should cost and what's a reasonable, set your expectations for something reasonable. So you're not getting over or undercharged. I think undercharged could be that's a red flag too, that you're either not getting the service you thought you were, or you're getting somebody that's bad.
Yeah.
or unhappy because they're not charging enough money. But then also like software and analyzing your systems. I think it's really easy for businesses, especially small ones like me, to sign up for subscriptions and forget about them. So I've got this accountant friend, and she recommends, I think it's every 18, 24 months, just get a new credit card, and then cancel your old one. And she's like, everything that you need, you will make sure you get the updated payment info to. Then everything you don't need will just fall off, and you'll stop getting charged for all that crap. I have yet to do that, but I do look through bank statements and just make sure everything I'm paying for is something I actually need and use. Because that stuff adds up, and you're thinking, oh, it's $12 a month, but then you've got 20 of them.
And that's the thing with like wearing a lot of hats, and getting involved on different things in your business. Like with me having to do a lot of the credit card statements and the bank statements, I don't really miss that stuff, whereas before, when I had a CFO, I would easily be the guy that forgot about that or wouldn't recognize like, oh, we're still paying for that service that we don't use.
Yeah, right.
Like knowing all your costs I agree is huge.
Yeah, I think other than creative design, one of the last things I'd let up is the financials. Just it's so important to know where every dollar is going.
Yeah.
And you can't even start to cut costs until you look at your bank statement and see what you're actually spending on stuff.
Yeah, and if you grow to the point where you need to hire a CFO, like that's great, that's fine. But I would say when you're starting out and starting small, like that's something that the average like plumber or electrician probably doesn't want to get in the weeds with. But I think it's really important to do that at a time when you're small, so that you understand it, know how it works, and then you grow and maybe you need a CFO and you do that, but like you understand what their job entails, and then you could step in if you had to.
Yeah, 100%. That's great advice.
Yeah. So, you know, on YouTube, you see all these videos about like hacks and stuff. And those ones get a lot of views because it's kind of like, it's all about the hook and getting people engaged right out the gate. So like in restaurants, one of like a tip or a hack could be a smaller plate size. So like at Birdie's, our plates are slightly smaller for our combos, like our breakfast combos, like potatoes, eggs, bacon, than they are at Le Peep. Just, I mean, and not intentionally, really. It was just like we like that style of plate.
Yeah,
I thought it looked cool. But the benefit from that is now you're using less potatoes, maybe like a half an ounce less or something, which adds up a ton over the course of a year. So like that might be something. Or, you know, we use for our filet at next door, we have a lot of scraps. So like we'll take those filet scraps over to Brick Street sometimes and mix that in with our steak, which is it's actually like obviously much higher quality because it's a filet, and otherwise that would have been wasted. Or we could come up with a special at next door or something. But utilizing the scraps and doing some psychology stuff, like having a little bit of a smaller plate so that you're portioning a little bit less, like portioning just a little bit less, like I said, can make a huge impact, especially when you're doing the volume and you have multiple stores. So is there anything like, maybe there's not, I don't know. I don't think I shared this question with you, but like, is there anything in your field that would be like a hack or a tip to like saving money?
I think it's maybe not saving money, but perceived value is that like I always include a 3D color rendering. And I think people would be shocked at how quick I can make those. And so my air quotes cost again is very low, but it does a few things for me. One, I think that boosts my value of what I'm providing. Everybody wants to see their home in color, and nobody can really visualize what a 2D elevation looks like.
Right.
I also think it really helps the buy-in from the client realize that I know what I'm doing. And processes go usually much smoother when I can render their house and they're like, oh yeah, that's really close to our inspo images. We're happy with that. And so it does a lot of things for me behind the scenes that I would consider a hack. And I think most architects, drafters don't offer, well, they would offer it, but I don't think most would put it in their base model. And I'm going to have it in my base of everything, even the lowest tier of work you can do with me. I'm going to include it again because I can make them really quick and get you bought in on and excited about a project.
That's something you could like market too. You know, like if you work with me, this is what you get. Yeah. And it's not an extra cost. You know, it might help like get new clients. Yeah. That way, if you like push that, because anything like that, it's like, all right, so he'll design my house, but like if I want a rendering, that's probably gonna be an upcharge or whatever. Yeah. You know, like if there's anything extra like that to sweeten the deal, you know, I think could help you get new clients. Yeah, because
for sure.
You know, just increased in perceived value.
One other hack I have, and I know the field workers don't love this, but when I'm doing construction document set, like sending something to the field, I try and minimize the instances in which I'm saying the same information. Like roof pitches are an example. Everybody wants roof pitches on the elevations, but I only put them on the roof plan. I do that for a couple of reasons. One, I'm not duplicating my work. And anytime I'm duplicating my work opens the door for more mistakes in my drawings. And so if they're looking for the the roof pitches. I'm like, oh, go check the roof plan. They're all on there. And then I know there's only one source I need to edit if any changes come up. And there's only one place I can make a mistake instead of 2 or 3 if I'm repeating that information over and over on a drawing set. Yes, I think the field, it would be more convenient for them if it were on the elevations. But I think what's even more convenient than that is stuff being right and not having conflicting information on 2 different sheets on the drawing. So I noticed I do a lot of stuff like that on my drawing set to really hone in on how many times I'm writing the same thing down, and how much I'm usually including pointers, like look at the foundation page for the thickness of this wall. Instead of marking the thickness on that wall, I'm sending them to another page in the drawing set. And that has really helped me both streamline my process and minimize errors. So I'd say those are probably the big ones.
It's kind of like don't say too much, the more you try to explain yourself, the more you can get into trouble. It's kind of like that mentality.
It is a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So cool. Well, thanks for watching, guys. If you have any cost saving strategies, hacks, tips, things that you like to use in your business, or anything that we've talked about that you're curious on that you'd like us to elaborate further on, leave them in the comments. Let us know what you think. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, like and subscribe.
Yep. Thanks.